how do we get there? How do I keep from singing? You know, when life is happening and, I don't know, a lot's been happening in my life lately, a lot of medical things, and you start to remember, oh, you're human, and you have a body, and when you're not feeling good, your mind goes to the craziest places. So I started looking at this as things have unfolded, and what came out of it was when the mind's consciousness rises. So what does that mean exactly? Well, we're all individuals, and we all have certain frameworks of how we see the world. And reality is everything else. But most of us are, for lack of a better word, lemmings in our constraint matrix of how we were raised, our own individual mind, and that's why two people can see the same thing and talk about it differently. And I figured this out from having a 3-year-old in my house. He sees things very differently from the way mom and dad see it. So I started thinking about consciousness. Well, first and foremost, there's one consciousness. There's not Tracey's, Julianne's, Hazel's, Mel's. There's one consciousness, and as individual, we have frameworks that that consciousness that you are embodying uses to see the world. And so when there's discord or lack of harmony, which is your true nature, you are bliss. You are harmony. You are light. You are joy. You are already all of those things. And where we get lost, thinking that we have to go externally to find it, is through our framework, which is perfectly okay because that is the human experience. We're born, when we're born, we have no name. We just come into the world, and someone holds us, and they start the story. They start to tell us how beautiful we are. They start to tell us, when we're infants, I was told, of course you want to take all the babies home, Tracey. That's why God made them so cute, so somebody would want to take care of them. And we start to cultivate them through our framework. And depending on what you were told is basically what you're going to be, typically what you would pass on. And here lies the crux and the beauty. Because that is, once you realize it's the crux, it's the freedom then also to set you free to your true nature, to your harmony, to your bliss, to your joy. So if you are not in harmony, bliss, or joy, that is not something that is oozing out of you, self-empathy, self-compassion, joy, and all of those other feelings we talk about, then you are in your framework. Our job, according to Tracey, is to start to look at the framework and to start to dissolve it. So as individuals, our goal is to become less of the individual framework and more of who we truly are. And what rises then is a natural state of empathy. We don't have to contrive it. We don't have to go, oh, I could have been more empathetic. Now, this is a start to wanting something more. But once you give that to yourself, you'll always give it to others. And how we start to do that is to notice. We have to notice how we're being, what we're doing in any given situation. And we typically don't, when we're in joy and everything's going well, we don't really slow down to go, oh, I have to notice here. We just know we want more of this, and then we get attached to that experience, and we start a new framework, a new concept, a new construct of trying to recreate the joy when the joy is there, and then we're still chasing an idea. So how do we get free enough of our concepts and our ideas to actually recognize or realize our true nature? Well, the first is to recognize that beliefs are the individual framework, and the awareness of the framework, the noticing, is who you truly are. And that takes a little time, commitment, and dedication, and grit, because it is not always easy, depending on the circumstance. I can tell you, I was not feeling very well, and I just wanted a hug. And my husband was taking care of the kids, and I was kind of, I just got stuck in my framework of take care of me. And I started to notice a little resentment was building, even though he was off doing the thing that needed to be done. And then this starts the story. So the opening thought about this is sometimes something happens and we feel upset, but we don't always know why. It's easier when we think we know why, but it's still thinking. It's still the framework. So the talk is about what happens inside of us and how we can rise in consciousness instead of react. So I wanted to kind of put this in order, and I'm going to use my notes because there's an order to this, and I want to make sure that I get it right. So there's a situation. So someone says something, and we feel something doesn't go our way. Right? We want something that somebody else isn't doing, and the story in our mind tells us we ought to have it. Dang it, I ought to have it, it's mine. Or why do they always do that? Or why do they always do that to me? We all know our own stories. So we feel surprised, maybe pressured or disrespected. Framework. So what happens inside? How can you tell this is happening? Well, if we recognize that we're frustrated, which I think is kind of easy to do, but hard to stop, right? So the body tightens, the heart, the shoulders, mine go up. We might clench our jaw, and the mind starts talking. This is the giveaway, right? That's not fair. I'm not safe. This always happens. She always does that. Doesn't she know? Why did she do that? Why did he do that? And the emotions rise. Then the mind starts. We start to notice the story, and then the emotions follow. And Reverend Donald talked a little bit about this last week about the law of your beliefs, right? That you are always working the law because they are your beliefs. So whatever you believe in is always going to happen. And I wanted to research, why is that true? Well, Ernest Holmes says, this quote that we're all very familiar with, life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it. That is the framework. That's what he's saying is, you are somewhere, something happens, and then a self-judgment occurs somewhere in that process. And we are going out to the other person, but really we are remembering an old story. And we are attached to this old story, and it is making our body react. And before we know it, our whole being is reacting. And we are in the personality, we're in the framework, and we're out of the joy and the bliss that we truly are. Why does it happen? Well, because we're human beings and we're trying to find our way back home. And we are all intermixing, and we're all bouncing off one another. And that really is the gift, although it doesn't feel like one if someone is perceived to be doing something to you. Now, we live on a planet hurling through space, and there is a myriad of things happening all at one time. And some of those things definitely are more horrifying than others. So in efforts of keeping it light today, we are just talking about the general run-ins that we have with our neighbors or our friends or just even in community disagreements. And how do we start to see our framework in the scenario so that we can meet that with curiosity and empathy and feel a sense of unity arise and recognize the individuality of each person and that they're all moving and being and having their way in the best way possible. Nobody fails on purpose. Nobody sets out to fail on purpose. We are all doing something because we are working from that framework, and we're also taught at some point from a story in our past, that's how we get our good. That's how we protect ourselves. That's how we don't let them get over on us. That's how I assert myself. And so what we're doing is we're holding that story in place, and we then, can proudly stand on that, although it won't as we have learned, get us very far. Sometimes we remember where we were hurt or ignored. Sometimes we might say, oh God, here it goes again. But Science of Mind teaches us that we don't just need to respond to what's happening right now. We need to respond to what we believe it means about us. Ernest says this, when we're thinking and willing and knowing conscious centers of life, and the sum total of all our thought is silently being made manifest. So we are thinking, willing, and knowing conscious centers of life. And the sum total of all of our thought is silently being made manifest. Because where you put your attention is what grows. Where you put your attention is surely going to come to be. And this is how we know that our law of life, our beliefs are coming into being. But sometimes it feels so much like the other person is doing the doing that we really don't see the story or the construct behind how we're accepting that as our own, right? It is so much easier to blame. I don't know about you, but it is for me. That can't be you, though, right? That cannot be you. So what you believe shapes how everything lands. And therein lies the beauty. If everything is shaped by your belief system, then you can start to take notice and believe, Ernest says, and then you get to, by power of choice, start to look at it, start to journal about it, start to follow those feelings, and to recognize your orientation towards life, your particular framework. Are you a suppressor? Are you do you use your voice to express? Do you go stand in a corner and pretend like it didn't happen? We're all doing something. And what Ernest says is whether you react and yell, whether you react and go hide, whether you suppress, the one thing for sure is that if it is not looked at, it will just continue. And it just seems like an ever-ending, you can take 1,000,000 classes, but if you're not willing to look, it won't change. And that's the beauty of our philosophy. So the way this moment might land depends on your belief. If your belief is they deserve it, you might feel justified. If your belief is I lost control and now everyone thinks badly of me, you might be an anxious person. If you believe I should have known better, you might have shame. If your belief is I never get it right, you might have hopelessness. If your belief is, I can't show how I feel, you might be a person that shuts down. Now, the beauty is there's nothing wrong with any of those things. This is just how we've learned to get by. The beauty in this is that when you start to notice it, you can start to inquire into it. Where did I learn this? What do these feelings have for me? Instead of judging being that way, you inquire into being that way. And when you inquire, the universe says, oh, she wants to know, he wants to know. And it starts to bring us the information that we need to really and truly see the joy and the peace and the love and the joy that we are. And those scenarios points not just to what happened, but it is the belief behind your response that it's really pointing to. Ernest says we are not bound by precedent. We can change our thinking. And in doing so, we change our experience because what we're giving our attention to is a new idea. What we want to be cautious of is that we're not just creating another concept, a new belief. What we really are going after is there have been so many people in the world that says, I am joy, I am light, I am beauty. Well, dang it, why doesn't that feel that way right now? Why doesn't it feel that way when I fail? Why doesn't it feel that way when someone's yelling at me? Why doesn't it feel that way in the midst of the pain of our humanness? And the truth is, it's an invitation in the midst of our pain. Instead of judging the pain, we notice it. We ask it why it's here. We allow it to have the freedom in the room to pass through. And then when we do that, we let go of it, the structure or the framework can fall. And then what remains is the most beautiful empathy for yourself. And it radiates out, because once you see it for yourself, you then see it for everybody else. That is why they say when one person awakens, everyone awakens, because there no longer becomes the individual out there. You are only then projecting your true nature, and you understand that if a person is fussy, they are just living in their framework. And we're all just bumping into each other. And there are scenarios in life that bring these up more than others. And I can tell you where it usually goes south for me is when we react from that old belief, we often end up proving it again, right? That loop that we just talked about. We can use terminology like, see, there it is, or I always mess it up, or it's happening again. But in this, the mantra that I really want you to think about is the word noticing. Noticing overreacting. Noticing the feeling in your body. Noticing, and that beginning is the freedom. Ernest says, stop trying. Stop struggling. Begin to calm. This is why lots of teachers say follow the breath, because it regulates the nervous system. It calms the framework. It brings you into center, and it allows for that feeling to arise. Now, when that feeling arises, this is when the work starts, right? Because that feeling can be quite overwhelming depending on the way you were raised. That feeling that says, I could have did it better, I shouldn't have done that, or, oh, I need to call them, or, oh my God, I need to apologize, which all of those things may be true, but if we are doing it from our framework, we're doing it to get rid of that feeling. And if we get rid of that feeling, then we can't explore it, to dissolve it, to see the light behind all of it, right? So when we go out, whether it's to react, the same thing can happen when we're apologizing. We have to check our intention or our motive for every action that we have to see the underlying feeling behind it, because there is the crux of our own personal framework. And when we get in tune and in touch with that, and we really see it and we sit with it, which can be quite difficult. But if we start with the mantra noticing, then with the mantra I am safe, and then we write. So something happens in the writing that takes the idea from our mind, and a lot of unconscious stuff comes out in our writing, things that aren't at the surface level of our consciousness. A lot of those old stories, those old patterns, those I'm not good enough. So if you were in a house where you saw parents arguing a lot, or dad was gone a lot, and you were a child, you made something up about you. I can guarantee it, because that's how framework is designed. Right? If dad was an alcoholic and mom yelled a lot, if you didn't have any money, if something was going on and you were a small child and you are building your framework and things are unhappy at home, you are going to make up something about yourself, and then that is going to go into that unconscious framework, and when it's reignited through a conversation or something you see, then that story is going to play out over and over and over again. And then we're going to come back to ourselves and judge how we met it, and that's where I want you to stop. When you judge how you met it. You know, in the process, some of us get loud, some of us shut down, some replay it. Are you a ruminator? I don't know. No ruminators here, right? No, can't be. Some of us make other people wrong, and these are all coping mechanisms. But in that space after, the recognition of it is where most of us do something to be distracted. We turn on the TV, we start scrolling, we eat, we do anything that we can not to have to look at how the situation unfolded, but most importantly, to avoid the feeling that we have in our gut that is saying, listen to me. I am showing you the way. And yes, it's uncomfortable because you believe something that's not true. And I'm trying to tell you that it's not true. And you are trying to hold on to it for dear life, like it's the truth. And the reality is that feeling just wants to be expressed through you and be released so that you can feel that joy and love and abidance that you truly are. The question is, what's really going on? Ernest says healing is not accomplished by analyzing, but realizing something about yourself. That's the beauty of our philosophy. That's what he was pointing to. And the gift of catching it, even after, right? I don't know about you. Have you ever been in an argument and you tried to stop in the middle of it? You have this forward energy. It's like, 10,000 trains. You're not going to stop it when you really feel like someone has done something to you. It would be like trying to stop a locomotive. And if you did that, you would be in judgment of yourself. So sometimes it's the after. You know why it's the after? Because it's the after the story. You don't realize you have the framework until it's happened. So the after is to look back at the framework and do the work to see the story in which you are operating from. You might snap or yell or withdraw. You might keep it all bottled up. But later, when it gets quiet, you can sit, because the true teaching is in the stillness. The true teaching has no words. Words are pointers. Words are processes. They are practices to get our mind on the right track or path. In the stillness of your true nature, confusion calms and clarity reveals itself. And the universe must always respond to itself in your individual nature or in the nature of expressing as love and light. So you'll start to see that the story without blaming yourself. You might not be able to see it clearly, but you know what's happening because you can feel that. I don't know about you, but I feel it here. And I just want to run away from it sometimes. And the more I want to run away, the more I know I need to stay and inquire into it and to find a way that's kind for me to do that and a way that's kind for you. Ernest says there is a calm, a peace, and a stillness at the center of our being that has never been disturbed. That must be true. And if it is true, then it is all of us, right? So it must be true. And if it is true, you have to find it for yourself. This is a job for you alone. And we are all here to support you on your journey by running into you once in a while and pissing you off. I don't recommend it, but it's going to happen, right? And the joy of that is, it doesn't mean that the other person isn't being rude or disrespectful, but they're just working from their framework. So if you investigate into your framework, that energetically goes away. And what's left is, that doesn't matter. Because from your true nature, nothing matters because there's no problem there. I tell the practice students, there's no problem that isn't yours. There's no problem that isn't your problem. Because it is your awareness, your reality, your framework, your structure. And there's no problem with that either. It's the thinking mind that makes a problem about it and about others. And can you imagine a world where that is dissolved? That is my idea for this community, that we work on recognizing the frameworks, how we respond and react to one another, me included, how we are finding our way back to our true center so that we can meet each thing and understand what spirit wants to express from this place, not Tracey. Tracey is irrelevant in this situation. What spirit wants to express through me, and can Tracey be calm enough to honor the role that she stepped into, to bring it into fruition? And if we can lay down the framework for just a moment to even approach from curious, what wonder and amazement and beauty and love can express from this building, and it will be an energetic magnet that will draw people in. It will. They will show up because they will be able to feel it. And those are the ones that we want to share our experiences with. So when the mind rises, it starts with a breath. And in that moment, before and after the reaction, you can pause and breathe. You calm the nervous system. You tell your body, you're safe now. We're not back there. We are here now. And then you can ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I believing? What would love, the love of my true nature, express itself as now towards yourself? Keep that one word mantra in your experience this week as you start to notice the noticing. That one word mantra, just notice. Don't judge. It's not a great big leap, but it is a small leap to the greater awareness. Just one gentle, honest pause changes the whole framework and opens you up to a new clarity, a new breath of life, a new feeling that expresses itself to you and through you. Ernest says this, the power within you is the same that holds the planets in place. It is the same intelligence that governs the universe. So you just sit with it. Don't dissolve it, just notice it. Don't even try to fix it. Just sit with it. Breathe with that feeling. And if the feeling could speak, what would it say? And write and let the tears flow. Just let it all come till the story shows itself. No blame, just presence remains. Ernest says, be still and know that the inner light is shining always. This metaphor can carry you through the week. The metaphor of the dimmer switch. Think of awareness like a switch that goes up and down. Not on and off, just up and down. And when something gets hard or something happens, the switch doesn't flip to full light. It's a gradual increase as we move that dimmer switch up and down. But you can just turn it a little, just a little curiosity, and then pause and notice. Does it want to be turned up a little bit more? And when you sit with the feeling, which is the most important part, ask the deeper question and watch the dimmer switch go up. The room will no longer be dark. The mind will be illuminated. The energy will be your true nature. And when you are the witness to your own life, you will start to see and you will start to release and to let what's happening happen. And you will be able to find your way through it easily, graciously, always applying the empathy that is a natural reaction from doing the work within. This week, when something triggers you, or when there might be some discord in your life, use the mantra notice. What is this moment inviting me to see, feel, or choose? And remember, you're not in the dark. You're just turning up your light. Let it shine. Namaste. I did make about 20 journal sheets with different processes of how you can do this. And it's also got a process if you're observing the fight. Maybe you're not involved in it, but your nervous system is dysregulated because you're observing some type of negativity or something that you perceive to be discord. So that work will help you through the week. So please grab a journal sheet. All right, and we'll just anchor this in prayer right here, right now, just knowing that as we calm our nervous system, as we start to recognize the truth of our beingness, as we catch small glimpses of it from doing the work, we can feel the difference between the clarity of truth and the disruption of mind. That we tune into the truth that pushes all chaos out. It brings in the light of love to shine on any situation and the framework from which we are perceiving it. We start to recognize where it was built and how it was made, and we start to see that we're just carrying an old idea forward and that we can lay it down and stop. That in the stillness of our being, in the quietude of our day, that is our true nature. The being, the stillness, the quiet. And where that is, eventually clarity and answers show themselves. That there is no thing that we are going through that cannot be addressed in this way. That we let all that is unlike the truth fall away. Then the bigger picture comes into focus, which is the consciousness that we all are, which is the truth that we all are, which is the joy that we all are. We are the joy. So we could say, let there be joy. There is joy. I am that joy. Let there be light. There is light. I am that light. Let there be love. There is only love. I am that love. And that true nature, until it has made itself steadfast in my system, I shall be true to who I call myself to be through the work that I do as my individual beingness, always turning on the beacon of love and light to show that the mere idea of just stop, drop, and letting it go, follow the feeling all the way home to the heart, reveals the greater nature of who we truly are. And from that place, we live and move and have our being. And we become illuminated minds, bodies, and souls. And this is the step to illuminating our planet and making a world that works for everyone by making a world that works for us individually. I release these words into law, knowing they cannot be returned void, for as our beliefs change, the world must meet that and show us yet that we are on the right path. Thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, Creator, for all that you have given, for all that you are, and for all that we believe you to be. Illumination of love and light, and so it is.